Varmt välkomna tillbaka. Smakade lunchen gott? Bra, vad härligt. Som ni ser här nu är vi alltså på breakout eftermiddag. Vi befinner oss i stora salen. Så om det är någon som skulle vara någon annanstans och lyssna på något annat pass så är ni på fel ställe. Och jag ser folk rör sig lite här nu. Vi tar inte det personligt med det kommande ämnet. Bra, jag påminner om Slido. Här inne fortsätter vi med samma kod som innan, det vill säga slido.com. Och hashtaggen är PVC. Som ni ser här, vi ska ha fokus på cirkulär ekonomi och vi ska zooma in det inom elektronikindustrin. Och nu kommer jag med det här för jag ska säga att this session will be held in English. And with that said, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Natalia Lopez. Give her a big applause.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's session on circular economy. I promise that we're going to have a really interesting discussion. And this is actually going to be divided into two parts. The first one is where we're going to share the insights of a report we have just prepared. So you are the first people in the entire planet to look at the results of this report. So yeah, exactly. It's super exciting things for today. And this is what it's called, basically future-proofing the electronics industry, a case for circular business models. And the second part of this is going to be a great and exciting panel discussion with a lot of industry experts in electronics. But before we jump into that, I want to set the scene with something. Who knows who that little creature on the screen is? Raise your hand. Okay, so a lot of you know who that is. And for those of you who don't, I'm so sorry. This session comes with spoilers. So Wally is his name, and he is a little semi-sentient little robot who is in planet Earth. And what has happened is that humankind has basically destroyed, trashed, polluted planet Earth. And they decided to leave the planet and live on a spaceship and just wait for Earth to fix itself and find a time to come back. And Wally's job is to go around picking up the trash, compiling it, and then just putting it into a whole bunch of piles. And then I realized, oh my God, that's what many people still think that the circular economy is. That it's just waste management and recycling. And it has to be so much more than that. So let's set the scene on what circular economy is. So as you can see here, we have the traditional linear economy, where you make something, you take it, you make it, and you waste it. So you see the trash can at the very bottom is full of trash. And then we have the recycling economy, where we take something, we use it a couple of times, and then it ends up being recycled. But as you can see, this little trash can here still has waste. In a true circular economy, it's an empty trash can. There is no waste. Somebody else's trash is somebody else's treasure, literally. And I thought that it would be good to set the scene by talking about the definition of what PwC Sweden thinks the circular economy is. So the circular economy is the kind of economy that eliminates waste and pollution, circulates products and materials at their highest value, and regenerates nature. And I think it's very important to set that scene so that we understand what circular economy is and what circular economy is not. So let's have more questions. And this is planet Earth. And I have a question for everybody here, and I'm going to need your help answering it to scan what people think. How circular do you think planet Earth is? How circular is the world? And I want you to answer by using your hands. So each of your fingers counts as 10. If you think it's 20, you're going to raise 2 fingers. If you think it's 90%, you're going to raise 9. If you think it's 0, you can just raise both of your fists up in the air. So show me with your hands, how circular do you think planet Earth is? I see a 20, I see 10s, I see 50s, around there. Okay, yeah, 10, 10, 5. Okay, fantastic. Good, hands down. And how circular do you think Sweden is? Same exercise, same way of working. I see 60s, 20s, 30s, 10s again. Okay, so let me give you the reality. The planet is only 7.2% circular. And Sweden is actually not doing any better. Sweden is only 3.4% circular. So this kind of facts were the things that made us in our team think, wait a minute, is the linear economy that good that we're not engaging in circularity? So we decided to test that question and say, does it make sense to stay in the linear economy in the long run based on the numbers that we're seeing? And we were trying to answer this specific question because in order for circularity to develop itself, we kind of need to understand it from a cost perspective, right? So we decided to develop a methodology. And how did we did that? So first, we decided to select one industry because we cannot do this for the entire industries of the entire planet. We have limited resources. So let's take the electronics industry, and we took it for two reasons. One is the 5th most polluting industry. 2, it's a very difficult industry to work with, and at PwC, we so love a challenge. And the way we did this was that we divided the entire electronics industry into 4 sectors: consumer electronics, industrial and medical electronics, ICT, and automotive electronics. And what we decided was to gather a whole bunch of data, like from public sources, from our internal reference, from industry experts, from some of our partners. And we took that data and analyzed it from a life cycle assessment perspective and from a life cycle cost perspective. And we decided to take 4 business models: the business as usual model, which is the linear economy; circular input, which would be like, for example, if you buy like a shirt that's 90% recycled polyester, that would be an example of that. Then we talked about remanufacturing, like if you crash your car and the door breaks, you're not going to throw the entire car out the window, you're just going to repair what was broken, so that would be considered remanufacturing. And we analyze product as a service. And to give you an example of product as a service is when you lease something instead of owning it. At PwC, we lease all our laptops. They are not our own property. So that's what we did. And we started our analysis from baseline year 2023 till 2035. And guess what we found out? All the circular business models outperform the linear economy. All of them, no matter what you choose, whether you choose circular inputs, remanufacturing, or product as a service. And this means that we found that if we take the average company in the electronics industry, this company can save around 12% in cost savings and around 10% in CO2 emissions reduction. And that's just the average company. So we decided that, wow, these insights are like really, really relevant and are the kind of information that we need to share with all the people who want to engage in the circular economy and who have the decision-making power to support the circular economy in their own companies. But let's look at some graphs. I love graphs. I think they make a lot of great points. What you see here is the entire electronics industry, as I said, starting from year 2023 till year 2035. Business as usual is the red dotted line you see in the top. Circular inputs is the one that you see in yellow. Remanufacturing is the one we see in dotted white. And the pinkish one is product as a service. So you basically see that when it comes to financial cost, the linear economy is basically the worst option when we count how long it takes for us to get to year 2033. And the same thing happens with CO2 emissions. The same thing happens. You see at the very top, we have business as usual. Then we have circular inputs, and product as a service and remanufacturing are kind of close, well, I would say second or first, depending on your perspective, right? So there is a lot of potential for the electronics industry in general. But however, this was not the only finding we got from this report. Yes, it makes sense from a cost perspective. Yes, it makes sense to go circular from a climate perspective. But we also found out that when we look at the sectors in which we divided the electronics industry, we actually found out that not all circular business models work in the same way for all the sectors. So what does that mean? That it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of approach. You need to understand which circular business model brings you the best benefits. And you can see here, for example, for the automotive industry, it was much more beneficial from a cost perspective to use it. And for all the other 3 sectors, we actually had product as a service as the best option from a cost perspective. And what was even more interesting was that for CO2 emissions, it's even more mixed. We can see that automotive and industrial electronics benefit more from remanufacturing, And we also see that consumer and ICT benefit more from product as a service. Although I have to say, you can see that for ICT, remanufacturing came very, very close. So what does this actually tell us? Like that circularity in the long term is more environmentally friendly, it's more cost efficient, but we need to understand our company strategy and use the right business model. And something that we also talk about in this report is that whenever circularity is mentioned, is usually together with the word transformation. And that's a very scary word. But what we actually suggest is that you can get a transformation by making a series of transitions instead. As you can see, you saw that all three circular business models outperformed the linear one. Nothing's stopping you from starting to work with circular inputs. Because that's already going to give you like a cost benefit, it's going to give you an environmental benefit. And the whole idea is that you take circular inputs, which could be, for example, your procurement policy, and include some circularity requirements in that. And that means you're probably going to have to work a little bit more with your upstreams, but it's not that complicated from that point of view. You go into that, start developing that, develop a strategy around that, become super mature and an expert. And then, once you're at the top of being the expert of circular inputs, you start setting the strategy, start developing the infrastructure, and jump into remanufacturing. And then that cycle repeats, and then you jump into product as a service. You don't have to jump into product as a service from the very beginning. And all these series of transitions is what's going to give you the transformation. So these are the main insights of the report that I thought I was going to share with you. And I hope that you get to download it. I'll show you the QR code where you can download the report later on. But I think that it will be time for us to jump into our panel discussion. And what is really important about talking about in this panel, which you will see, is that no company can achieve circularity by themselves. There needs to be collaboration. And all the experts that we are going to have here are going to talk exactly about that. And in PwC, we've developed a methodology called the Circular Innovation Framework. And what I really like, it kind of looks like the infinity symbol if you see it, which is really links to circularity. And you need to identify all those stakeholders in your ecosystem that help you narrow loops, connect loops, slow loops, close loops, and enable those loops. And what you have in the middle is your circular value proposition or your circular business model. But you need to identify those in order for your circular business model to work effectively. The actual framework itself is a little bit much bigger. But now that you have that on the top of your minds, I think it's definitely time to introduce you to our lovely panel. So I'm going to ask all of them to come to stage and join us. So please, ladies and gentlemen, give me a round of applause to introduce Andreas Nobel. Andreas is a pioneering figure in sustainable development within the IT industry. He is the development manager at TCO Certified, where he has been instrumental in laying the foundation for the circular economy. Welcome, Andreas. Yes, take any seat you like. Then we have Tomohiko Sakao. Tom is an internationally renowned expert in eco-design and product service system. He has been working with Linköping University for 16 years, where he has developed theories applicable to practice, giving cutting-edge insights into the industry. He has been one of the active Swedish members for ISO standardization on circular economy, TC 323. Welcome, Tomohiko. Next, I'd like to introduce you to Ove Lidström. Ove is responsible for long-term business development and the development of new innovative offers for Foxway Group. Ove has solid experience from the IT and telecom industry in various leading roles. He came most recently from Apple, where he was head of channel sales. Welcome, Ove. And last but not least, we have Stefan Larsen, and he's the head of sustainability services and consulting for Lenovo. The Nordic guy in an international company that drives sustainability solutions, making these solutions tangible and relevant. Welcome, Stefan.
Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Nice to have all of you here. How are you feeling?
Great.
Exciting. Now, you know that the linear economy is not, where we should be going. How do you feel about that?
It's pressing, but I think all of us in this room knows that we need to do something about it. Otherwise, I don't think we would be here.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah. Fantastic. So I'm going to start asking some questions here. So, for example, let's start with you, Andreas, since you just we're just talking, right? Where in the circular innovation loop do you see TCO at?
I mean, in a lot of these places, I see ourselves, but I think it was called slow and narrow. Yeah. I see us a lot. So what we're doing, just to present myself in a short way, because a lot of you don't know who we are, but we're a sustainability certification for IT products. So our job is to prolong the lifetime, make sure that no hazardous chemicals goes into the product, but also make sure that the people that are producing the products are working under good working conditions. So we found ourselves in a lot of these different bubbles that you can see. So mainly prolonging lifetime of products, making sure that the products are safe, and making sure that the people producing the products have a good time. Not have a good time, but do not suffer while they're producing the goods that we are using.
Yeah, super. And Tomohiko, where do you see Linköping University playing a role in this circular innovation framework?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I work for a university. We are a knowledge developer, meaning that science-based knowledge that is actionable in industry. That's what we are striving for. We basically receive funding from the public funding agencies in Sweden and Europe, but we sometimes receive funding directly from private companies. But even in that kind of situations, we provide science-based knowledge. So that's what we try to help every type of organization to act based on sort of legitimate knowledge. That's the role I see from the university and also individual academic researchers' point of view.
Yeah, it's really important that academia has a role within the circularity ecosystem, because you drive a lot of research that's very necessary to drive the work forward. Yes, thank you, Tom. And Uwe, first of all, talk a little bit about Foxway and what you do and where you see Foxway's role is in this whole circular innovation system.
Yeah, I mean, Foxway, our entire business model is based around circularity. So we're, as TCO, a little bit of everywhere in this model that you have developed. But we're basically helping our partners, that could be like mobile operators, retailers, or large OEMs like Lenovo or Samsung or whoever, to kind of enable them to become circular and sell circular services with the help of us. We are also approaching some of the largest Swedish companies and some of the players in the public sector, and kind of approach them directly or indirectly with the circular services offering.
Fantastic. Great. And Stefan, where do you see Lenovo's, well, first of all, talk about Lenovo, and where do you see Lenovo's role in the circular ecosystem?
Well, I guess most of you know Lenovo, right? We're the biggest PC manufacturer in the world, and of course we have a huge impact also when it comes to sustainability. Looking at your graph, actually, we as a vendor have a touch point in all of these areas. And I think that's one of the essential things here to emphasize. In order to really underline this whole circularity, it really starts with the design of the unit. If it's not being designed the right way, no way it's going to have a second or third life cycle.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah.
But not only that, but there comes so many things as a vendor into this, because we are also behind, the packaging, the logistics, what's in it when the user are actually having the units, and last but not least also making sure that the units can be recycled, can be circular in the way it's being repaired, in the way it's being recycled.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for that. So let's head to the next question, and I'll leave it open to whoever wants to start talking first. What is your organization's strategy and approach with regards to circularity? Who wants to take it, or should I point fingers?
I can start. I mean, So as I said before, we work with all the three legs in sustainability: economics, environmental, and social. So we try to push circularity everywhere where we can, because it's in our core of driving sustainability. But I mean, as of recently, we try to push the lifetime or the possible use time of a product a lot with our certification. So that is one thing. But also to prepare the products that are to be used to also be recycled, so we can actually take back the materials. Because as of right now, a lot of hazardous materials and chemicals are being put in the products, but it shouldn't be like that. So we're trying to advocate for a new way of thinking when it comes to chemicals and how you handle them, so we can actually move and transition towards this circular economy with all the materials. We don't end up with the Wall-E figure in the beginning.
Yeah, well, in Lenovo, we have a net zero strategy by 2050. And it's not only just something we say. We actually got Science-Based Target Initiative to validate it all the way. So that's our overall goal. But then, of course, we also have part goals, right? One of them, for instance, being able to 80% repairability, that it can be repaired by the own user. And not only that, but we are also looking into new materials, new shipment ways, but also looking into brand new areas of saying, okay, what about modularity? How can we make the units be more modular? So again, adding to the circularity.
Yeah. And since Lenovo has a net zero strategy, I guess circularity plays such an important role for your net zero strategy, right?
Absolute important. And I guess, well, for those of you who do not know, but when you have a net zero strategy, you're also extremely dependent on your sub-suppliers, because you cannot be net zero if your sub-suppliers are not. So that is also a new strategy that we in Lenovo are looking towards. For instance, and I don't know if you saw that, but a year ago, we just had a brand new negotiation deal done with the A.P. Møller - Mærsk for container shipments. Why was that? Because they are now turning all their vessels from traditional tanker fuel into biofuel. That was one of the criteria behind it.
That's fantastic. How about in Foxway? How are you working with circularity?
Well, I mean, as I'd said, that's our entire business is based on it. So that's what we do every day, and that means a bit different depending on who we work with. If we work with an OEM, or if we work with like a municipality or a large global company or a retailer, of course. But essentially, we have like 3 different value propositions. One is, we call it recovery services, where we do whatever we can to kind of take products in that is not in use anymore, or is for the first life cycle at least, it's kind of end of life. Taking those products in, making sure that they have a new life. So we are refurbishing the products, and then we take them out in the market again, and that we call remarketing services. And what we do with the products nowadays, that has, it has changed a lot just since I joined the company back 2 years ago. We're actually able to refurbish them to such a great quality, so we can put them out on the market again with 3-year warranty. There is continuous supply on the products, so it's like buying any new product. So it's, I mean, it's developing. And then the third kind of value proposition that we are in the market with is we call it simply as a service. That means that we are helping either a partner to enable a fully circular business model, or that we are providing ourselves directly products as a service to our customers.
Yeah, because that's what we do at PwC. With
you are our customer, right?
Yeah,
so, for sure.
We're one of your customers. Yes. So none of the computers we use are bought; they're as a service, and they are.
And the mobile phones, and the meeting rooms.
Okay,
and
yeah,
so on.
exactly. You see, we only lease everything. We're like circular like that. Perfect.
Yes.
Tom, how about on your end? How is Linköping University? What's their approach on circularity? We know there's a lot of research, but.
Yeah. I can speak as an individual researcher.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can add to this earlier talk from the 2 aspects. One is remanufacturing, not only recycling and energy recovery, but also remanufacturing is very much underexplored right now. A few years ago, we participated in a European project looking into the current status of the remanufacturing business. In Europe, only 1.9% is sort of earned through remanufacturing compared with the new manufacturing. It's only in the business-to-business segment. So only less than 2%. That's way underexplored. So we want to help different companies, especially manufacturing companies, to raise the level of reusing components and whole products. That's the first aspect. And the other one is income from services instead of products. When looking into the manufacturing business, that the part for the service should increase along the journey towards circularity. And we know a lot of manufacturing companies earn from services, say more than half or so in terms of revenue, which is very good. But I think more and more companies should be going towards that direction. I'm not saying which target is appropriate. We cannot say that, but I think it's fair to say that the business from services should increase.
I can just jump in. Maybe you can help us, because we're talking directly to the big OEMs like Apple, Samsung, Lenovo, of course, and some of them, I mean, when we're talking to the local teams in countries like Sweden or whatever that is kind of far away from the HQ, where the market is really, I mean, they want to have the refurbished products with the highest quality and the warranties. That is it's a far distance to, let's say, Asia or to Cupertino in Apple's case, where the decision makers are to, if they should do it or not. And there's also like an internal conflict, because the sales teams are measured on selling new products, as many as they can, and the refurbished products is a different story. So it's it's kind of a maybe like the academia can go in here and help. I don't know.
To some degree, it is really changing by the vendor's point of view, right? So we are seeing this as a great opportunity, and also because the facts are, it doesn't have to cannibalize the other market. We will still have markets both for new and recertified. Yeah. So, and that's the importance here to emphasize. It's not the same market. They're two different market terms here, right? And that's also why it's really opening the door for a brand new interaction with everybody, right? Yeah. Then you might say, so what are the challenges right now? Well, the challenges we see right now from a vendor point of view, when we speak with corporates on a global scale, is that the level of sustainability, the green turnaround, is very, very different from company to company, from country to country. Here in the Nordics, we are very fortunate. We're quite advanced. Let's be transparent on that one. But in other regions, not as much. And what is interesting, we start to see a change. And for those of you who can remember back just before COVID, when we, for instance, were talking with customers about sustainability, the answer, and we said, so is sustainability important for you? The answer was yes. So our ask was, so what do you do about it? The answer was, we think about it. Today, it's completely changed. Most have a net zero strategy. Most have a reduction of CO2 by X%. It's very, very tangible. And that's opening the door for tangible solutions.
That's true. But then that's a good segue to the next question I want to ask. Like, can you talk about a challenge you have had when working with circularity, but also how you overcame that challenge? Because we want to inspire the audience and say, hey, no, it's just not problems out there, they're solutions. So could you talk about, maybe on TCO side?
Yeah. I mean, I have a really good example, actually. So I hear you talking about, you have your net zero goals, but what we see from our perspective is that there is not enough coming together and trying to solve the more complex problems, because usually one brand alone do not have the power themselves to move the whole market. So as you said, you are the largest manufacturer of PCs, but you still, is it 20% of the total market? Maybe a little bit more, 30. I mean, but still, if you go to the large ODMs or OEM factories in Asia, usually you share that factory with a lot of others that use the same factory. Sometimes I know this personally because we sit on this data. So what we saw that, for example, the chemical industry has an enormous impact and influence over our society and world. So when we tried to push for more circular and more sustainable materials, a lot of pushback was thrown at us saying, no, it's too expensive, we can't do it. But what we had the power to do was to bring all the manufacturers together and say, hey, we can do it if we come together and everyone is starting to ask for the same thing, because then we level the playing field. Then everyone plays against the same rules. So then it will be possible to do so, because then not just one company will be at a disadvantage for going first. But what needed to happen was that we had to take the first step. So that was the big challenge. Everyone was pushing back. So we said, all right, we take the upfront cost. We do the assessments of these chemicals to propose better alternatives for the industry to use. And from that point in time, we developed something we called an accepted substance list. So this is go around and flip the narrative of having, ban lists saying legislation say you cannot use this, this, this. Instead, we say, these are the things that you should use. And we started paying for it, and now you guys pay for it, and now it's working. Now all of the big brands are using this, and they are phasing out these hazardous chemicals from the products, which no one was working with before in this way. So collaboration.
And some industry standards. You're absolutely right. Just on the factory side, in Lenovo, we actually own our own factories, but nevertheless. But then there is the other aspect of this, which is also to be very, very transparent, right? We all want circularity. We all want sustainability. We see this. But when the day comes and the customer are ready to make the selection, are they also ready to encounter that into the selection, or is it still price that is the key driver? And that is one of those things that is so important for us to have that dialogue around, right? Because we have, all of us, we all have different kind of solutions that we can help our customers with. The question is, how ready are the customers also for it? Some are very ready, some are partly ready.
That's a really interesting question. And actually, we have been working with, in Sweden, for example, with Upphandlingsmyndigheten, which is kind of the overall agency, governmental agency that kind of gives the guidance to Kammarkollegiet or any municipality or governmental agency, right? And they have now written that you should consider these things when you are when you're making a RFI or an RFP, for example. But we haven't seen a lot, even though these things has now been kind of public available since, I think, 8-9 months. We haven't seen a lot. And also the weight that this thing has when it appears in a public procurement is very thin. So that means that you're not super serious about it. But if you turn it around, you can see that actually it does not have to be a conflict between more sustainable and less cost. I mean, we are actually, because we have been waiting so long for the OEMs to kind of collaborate with us on this, and we didn't want to wait anymore. So we're launching our new brand next week that is called Tech Cycle, and that's the kind of our brand with the full warranties, etc., on the products. And those products, they are less expensive than the new ones, of course, right? So that means same warranty, lower price, and substantially lower CO2 related to it when you report in the CSRD, for example, or science-based targets. So that, we think, will have an effect in the market.
That's good. Tom?
Yeah. If I am asked the major challenge or typical challenge, what I have seen from so many companies, or well, basically every company moving towards the circularity. I mean, if we focus on manufacturing companies, then every time we see internal conflict of interest, internal meaning that product development department versus service department. Service department wants to earn money from services, but product department lower the production costs. So these are oftentimes in conflict with each other. So we tell each company saying that top management commitment is a must in order to make a clear direction so that middle management and operational teams can work in coordination. So that's what we tell.
And thank you for that. And I think a really good example of, I mean, we were talking a lot about collaboration, and all of you have had a role in, and I say the example of PwC leasing your laptops, because we are a customer of Foxway, and Foxway works together with Lenovo. Lenovo works together with TCO, and TCO probably uses a lot of, research from, in public institutions. So this is a very good example on how identifying the right stakeholders to make a circular ecosystem work actually works.
Yeah.
So I think that's fantastic to have all of you here, because you have a role in this. And we are running out of time. But I have one question, and I'm going to leave it to whoever wants to answer. What concrete actions do you feel are needed to foster more kind of circular innovation in this kind of ecosystems that we see here? How can we get more groups like this working together?
Well, that I don't know, but I can answer the question anyway, because what I think it's, we're starting to be more and more aware of, how much, carbon footprint, for example, are we consuming? What kind of damage do we do? But to just know that is not enough, right? You need to change the behaviors. And what I think is, that is required is that you start to get that kind of information and understanding all the way out to the kind of the end users that are either buying or using the equipment, so they can make a sustainable choice. And that's easier said than done, but we are actually working with you guys, as you know, to develop a really cool solution that kind of where the end user can directly see, this is the cost and this is the CO2 per month in their face, and they can make a selection what's the best.
Yeah.
I can add to that. I think a lot comes down to not just looking at the end goal, because then you want to do everything at once. I think one thing that you should take with you, that start with something. Join an initiative that is working with circularity, or take a course on it and start doing something internally within your company. Because if you do not start something small, you will never end up at that finish line. You can't just look at that finish line, because then you will absolutely fail. It's like a marathon. You need to think of it as in steps, or maybe an Ironman, I should say.
No, that's very true. And I think we're ending the panel here. Thank you for such great insights. And please give all the panelists a round of applause for all the great insights. Yay, yay. Yay. And you can you can sit here. I don't need you to go, because since we were talking about collaboration and commitment, I want to bring you back to my friend Wally. And I'm so sorry again for spoiling the movie for you. And as we were saying before, we need to change. And if you remember the ending of the movie Wall-E, what happens? They discover there's a plant on Earth, and all the humans who've been floating in space for hundreds of years, they decide, hey, let's go back to Earth. It's regenerating itself. And they go back, and I realized when I watched this, like, Jesus Christ, they've been in space for 500 years with the same behaviors. They're going to trash the Earth again. So what we want you to do now is to use all these insights you got from the report from the great panelists and put thought into action. And we want you to make a commitment. What are you going to do today to work with circularity? Could it be, I'm going to check if my company has a circularity strategy? Could it be, I'm going to check, if my company has a procurement policy that includes circularity? Could it be, I'm going to talk to the person next to me and see if they have a role in my, circularity stakeholder framework? It's a small commitment. So if you scan the QR code that you see, well, it was a QR code there before. But if not, then you should go to that QR code there and download the report and get more insight. Make that commitment today. And if I'm going to be here, Adia, who's also there, is going to be here. Talk to any of us about how you can bring circularity into your organization. And also, all the panelists are still here, so you can ask them more questions. So, yeah, thank you so much for your time, Måns. Oh, yeah, you have the QR code. That's
No, not the QR code, but it's the same. Go to slido.com and use the code PwC, and it's all set up there. And someone has answered. LED lighting, to start with that. So it's working. So, But we have some questions for the panel as well, and 4 questions. three you already touched on, so it's going to make my job easy now. But people want to know about challenges and obstacles, and you talked about that. And but maybe if you can elaborate a little bit more about this, what your advice message is to a company who doesn't work with a circular model today. Where do you start? Where do we start? Someone asked. I mean, you are pros at this when you're talking now and you have the model. But I mean, the mindset here for people who's not today now working with this question.
Well, if I may start.
Yes.
So in Lenovo, we have launched something brand new. We call it sustainability workshops, where we basically go out, meet the customer where you are in your sustainability journey. And based on that, we provide very tangible solutions on what solutions to implement where you are on your life cycle. And we don't do this alone, because I think what Natalia also said, the importance here is working together. So we work together with all of our good friends, all our good partners, in finding the right solution for where you are right now. And that's the best advice I can give, really. Work together and find all those, because honest truth in all of this is there is no single solution today that's going to bring us to net zero. It's all those small drops of improvements between all of us that's going to bring us there.
Yeah, please.
If you want something tangible that you can just copy-paste and get started with your circularity journey, we actually have a report called Circular IT Management in Practice, which talks about how to procure and use your IT products in a more circular way, with a lot of tips and tricks. So it's publicly available on our website, free of charge. Download it, read it, and apply it to your organization.
Great. In the middle here, any other advice?
Well, I mean, I'm a bit, let's say, what's it called in Swedish? Called jäv. I'm not sure in
but that's
English.
fine.
Of course. But I mean, in scope 3, there is like two things for most companies: business, travels, and it's IT. So start with IT. It's simple because the solutions are already out there. Not only Foxway, but also with our partners, but also our competition. They are already offering circular solutions since many years. The problem is the adoption. There's not many of you adopting it. But the solutions are already there, so just buy them.
From my side, what you can do, every one of you can do right after this session is systems thinking. You can do 24 hours per day, this kind of thing. This is based on our scientific research. We did scientific experiments, asking them to do a design task, and then we found that systems thinking is essential.
Natalia, what's your advice?
I think it's fairly similar to what Stefan said. For you to know where you're going, you need to know where you are. And I think that usually starts by doing some sort of circularity maturity assessment. So where am I now here, in order to understand where you want to go? So I think we provide one of those, for example, a maturity assessment, which is usually the very first step in companies need to help understand where they want to go. And then, of course, if they are in the electronics industry, they can already see which circular business model perhaps already interests them more. So, yeah.
You want to see some of the commitments here?
Yeah, we have some commitments. Fantastic.
So you can see here.
Okay, so we have some commitments where it says buy less stuff and buy what I need, used and of high lasting qualities. It's a great commitment. Here we have my new knowledge to challenge our companies and partners' clients' conception of what's needing and new things actually means. We can collaborate to repair, repurpose, trade, or buy used. Reduce consumption, conscious choices on what to consume. Talk about it based on the discussions.
I think that's for the other room, actually, for
great.
Birka, so leave that one.
There we go. But we have
and you have the LED lighting here, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Satsa på what?
Satsa på LED-belysning.
LED-belysning. Yeah. Satsa på LED-belysning.
But last question is for you, Natalia, here. Someone pretty early and wanted to know, what sector will PwC focus on in their next research?
Oh my God.
In 1 year when you're standing here, but now you choose the...
Really interesting. I think since we already took a very strong challenge with the IT industry, we would probably try to tackle one of those who are one of the most pollutants, because this research actually will help those industries that are the top pollutants. Perhaps the construction industry, you know, in the built environment, that might be something interesting. But you'll know more of that later.
And now we have it on tape with the recorded session.
Exactly.
It's a
So now
promise,
it's legally binding for me to like work on that.
So we see you here again
exactly,
next year on this.
Talking about circularity in the built environment.
Perfect. Tack så mycket. Big thank you to you and thank you to Natalia.
Great, thank you.
Great. Så, and we switch back to Swedish then, och går över till svenska igen. Nu lite förflyttning här då. Vi börjar här igen om 10 minuter med fokus på mänskliga rättigheter. Och nere i Birka så är det skattefokus, hållbarhet ifrån ett skatteperspektiv. Så man kan passa på att röra sig lite här, så kör vi igång om 9 minuter igen, 13.55.